Well, hello and a very warm welcome to my studio out here in the summer house. It's a little bit cold today, which is why I've got my jacket on, but we're at the end of October here in the UK. Now, during the summer months, we quite often love going down to the seaside, and one of my favourite spots is a lovely little town called Southwold on the East Anglian coast. Whilst there, I had a look round and I come across some beautiful beach huts, just like that. And I had the idea of making my own model of a beach hut. So in this video, I'm going to show you how I did this model and how I started it with a hand-drawn template. First of all, let's have a little visit to Southwold. This little short video looking at the seaside and some of the area around Southwold itself. Well, I hope you enjoyed that little visit to the Southwold Beach. Now let's get on and draw my template. Now the template originally was drawn on a large piece of white card, hand drawn, and the measurements were done in a similar scale to a full-sized beach hut. Lovely little box, Yorkshire tea, my favourite tea by the way. How is a box constructed? All four sides, flat roof. Okay, our beach hut is going to have a raised roof, pitched roof, or whatever you call it. But let's have a look at the basic construction of a box. Let's pull it apart. So here we have a template. Now, not all templates will be the same. So we have a base, front, back, sides, and a roof. That's one example. Now, if you're going to make another paper house, how about a long thin one, tall thin one, very tall. Let's have a look at another paper box construction. And there we go. Now, a completely different template, different size, different construction yet again. So when you decide on what you're going to make and then paint and draw, you've got to consider the shape of your building first. Whether it's square, tall, oblong, whatever the shape, including the roof shape, you need to think of that before you actually work out your template. So the very first thing to consider for our beach hut design is this. Is the final fold going to be in the roof, where you join the roof together, or is it going to be in the base, where you join the base as the final bit? So you've got to work out on your template what you need to do first. So piece of A4, let's do some sketching. So we'll sketch out some ideas before we do the main drawing on a large piece of card. So the first thing to do is a rough sketch of how you want your design to be. So I think the simplest design for our beach hut to start with, we'll have a base, we'll have two sides, that's probably the simplest, so that folds up. We then have the back wall. Bearing in mind you've got to go that angle, and the front, which will be identical. But when the sides go up, we also need to have the roof section, which will be that little bit, so that needs to be added on. So we've got the base, two sides, the rear and the front, and the two sections of the roof. So which bits will be stuck together? So the sides will come up, so we're going to have sticky bit there, and a sticky bit there. That will fold in and tuck in on the back. The same on the front. So we angle them slightly like so. So we've got the rear and the front identical. The roof, that needs to have another bit, which can just be on one side, because that will then fold in and tuck in on that piece. Obviously when we do the measurements, we've now got to work out what the base is, and that will be identical there. How high it's going to be in relation to the base. So when it's folded up, like so. And the rear bit will come up, stick on there, and then the roof section will then be folded over and joined in the middle. Now the problem you're going to have is access to get in there to stick these things together. That is the other issue that we've got to try and resolve. So we could cut a door in. Cut that door out, which will open. Then you could probably get something in and push in to hold the things together. That's one option. Because you've got a nice base. We need the base. So let's have a look at the drawing in a different way. Let's do one on this side. The same beach hut again. Let's turn the drawing that way around. Okay. So we're going to have a base. That can stay as it is. And we still need a front and back. So we've got to have a front and a back. So we've still got them. Now, we're going to have one side here. We're then going to have the roof. And then we're going to have the other side, which will come down that side. So we've got that. Be there. So we've got the side going up, the rear going up, sticking on the inside there. That will be the roof. So you need a little template there to stick on that piece. The same there. To stick on the front. We can stick all them in because this side will be open. Then we got that side wall what's going to come down. Again, we need another piece like that. And we could either make a sticky bit there or on here. So, two designs for the same beach hut. This one, if you cut the door in and make it look if it's hinged one side or the other, you can get your finger in there or something like a ruler to push in and push them two sides together at the bottom. With that little flap lifting up with double-sided sticky tape to stick on this inside of that wall. So again, two designs with the same problem. Which one are you going to choose? So practical point of view of sticking it together, that one is probably the best for this type of building, where you can get access all the way around until the very last section, but we make sure we cut the hole in the door, leaving it on a hinge one way or the other. We can have access, and that would be perfect. Let's draw a little baseline here, like so. So first of all, let's just quickly draw a little line there, down that. We get this little thing here, and we put that on the bottom line on the base. We move that along, so we've got 110 degrees on there. That's our bit, and like that. And we draw a line. We can measure this, so it's 3 1/4 inches. 3 1/4 inches. Double check it. Do another line there. Across that point, across that point. There we go. We can turn this over because we can see through it. So the edge of that point now is that. That is on the straight part. That's the right spot on there. That's your 110 degrees roof pitch. So look at that little drawing. That's the side of the shed. That's the centre. That's 110 degrees. That's what we need to do on our template. Okay, that's the size for that larger size building. But let's transfer that now into a smaller version for our small beach hut. Right. This is my original template design, and I've missed out two vital parts on the side, which is the little piece of the wood which fits on the end of the sides. So I'll come up with a different idea. I'll quickly redraw it on here, so I'll just zoom into that. Don't know if you can see that one. This one here. So I've now redesigned it so that we have a side with the front and rear and the roof structure, and then coming off that is the two roof sections. When you fold them round, you can get your hand in to stick them together. Obviously we'll have little flaps. We then have the other side coming down, and the very final bit will be the base, which will tuck in underneath and stick on the side. Well, here we have a template now which I'm going to make use of for my beach hut. So the next stage will be putting the ink over it where the pencil lines are, double checking my measurements to make sure I get it accurate, and I'm just going to do the outline of the building to start with, including the fold up bits, before I do any final details. So that'll be the next stage, and I'm going to use a stapler pigment liner, 0.3 millimeters. So I'm going to use that and come back to me when I've done the initial outline of this drawing. That's all the lines done in ink. We'll leave that to dry. Now remember, this is just the template for the original drawing. I don't need to add any more details in there at all. All I need to do is rub out the pencil lines, photograph this template. That can then in Photoshop be printed out onto A3 watercolour paper, and then your main design for each of the beach huts, what I'm going to do, can be drawn individually on a watercolour paper. Right, now on to the next stage. My original template was on quite a large white card which I photographed. I then transferred it into Photoshop, and then I went over the line drawings with Photoshop, doing the nice crisp lines, mainly because when I looked close up with my pencil lines it looked terrible, so I wanted a more crisp template. So then I printed that out. After two different designs, I've decided to go with this one, which will be easier for construction. So this is just a basic outline for a beach hut. Now the next stage on this watercolour paper is to draw in the beach hut itself. Right away now we're going to go straight into this template and start drawing in the door and the wood. And I apologise to you now, we are inundated in the summer house with ladybirds. These little tiny insects that come in the house and in the summer house, and they are everywhere, quite possibly over the camera, and they are a flipping nuisance. Now if you remember, when I'd done the first template, I wanted this to be the angle of the roof same as a real beach hut, and the distances as well for the size of the beach hut, obviously in a smaller scale. Now we have what we call shiplap fencing panels on the sides of these sheds. They're wooden paneling which interlock to stop the rain coming in, hopefully. Now we have 18 panels going up just below the eaves, and which is where the top of the door is. So we've got 18 planks going up. On my scale drawing, basically we've got 9 centimeters. Each centimeter we can do, split it in half, so we can do 18 marks along there, and it'll be spot on for the amount of paneling that we need. I'm going to start marking these in a very light pencil. So just there we have okay. Now I've just drew in a pencil, and I've done it a little bit darker than I normally would, just so you can see it on camera. But I've drew in all the little side planks and the door frame. I've also marked in the little eaves which goes along there. Oh, getting ladybirds down my neck now. Oh. And right, so I'll turn the drawing over, and I'm just going to draw this planks on this side now. So 2 planks every centimetre. we go, that's that bit. And ladybirds are getting worse. Okay, now that is the other side wall. Just there. That's the roof. I've also drawn it in a porthole window. Basic at the minute. Just a circle. Obviously we'll fill that in with colour pencils and do it properly. So we'll just do a nice pen line around it as the backing. Draw in a little step. Little step. We're now going to do the door frame itself. So let's just now draw in the circle. With my coin, we'll draw in the circle of the porthole window at the back. Very, very carefully. And also draw in those bits there on the back. Right, I've now gone over the side walls and the rest of the hut, drew in a basic shape for a window, all in ink. Next stage is to take my putty rubber. This is a Mars plastic rubber from Stapler, and rub out all the pencil lines very gently so you don't damage the paper underneath, because this is my watercolour paper. stage for this beach hut. Photograph it, put it on the computer so we then got a copy of it, and then cut it out and stick it together. This is just a basic beach hut. What do you reckon? Hey? Have a go yourself. That's the first one. Right, where's my ice cream gone?